All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Best Self Blueprint. So, as you all know, the mission of this podcast is to bring on people with the knowledge, insights, and experiences to help you become the best version of who you are, whatever that means to you. So, before we even get going, obviously, this is a free resource, but you can help us reach so many more people by sharing it with others, by liking, by subscribing. We want to get this information in front of as many people as possible so we can really build a movement of pursuing that best version of who you are. Now, the guest today, she was a college athlete. She is now getting her master's. She is launching a new business. She is really doing everything to set herself up to be in aggressive, relentless pursuit of that best version of who she is. And that is exactly why she's sitting here on this show today. So I will let you introduce yourself, but Sam Glapinski, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm doing well. Well, like Trevor said, my name is Sam Glapinski. I am 23 years old. I just graduated from Central Michigan this past month, May, and I started at Marquette, the master's program, May 24th. So it was a really quick turnaround, but we're here for it. I also just started my business, independent partnership with Monet, and I've been doing that for 3 weeks now. So I'm just really happy to be here and happy to be a resource and hopefully provide some different insight for others. Sorry, that's my little
Hi.
sister.
So one thing that I am really curious about, just because you've been, again, it seems like especially recently, you've been putting a lot of these different pieces in place to be very intentional about your dreams and your passions. It's kind of a two-step question, but the first one is like, how did you realize like what your dreams actually were, as opposed to like what society's dreams are, what they're kind of projecting? And then what was your tipping point, or like what got you to pull the trigger on going to the master's program, starting the new business, doing all these things to set yourself up?
So yeah, those are good questions. All right. So in terms of what made me like want to go and do the master's program is I have always like it started with personal training. Like I've always been super into health and wellness, fitness, things like that. And I realized I had shadowed a couple of personal trainers and strength coaches, and I was like, I don't want this lifestyle. Like I love helping people, and I would love to I don't want to make something that I love like fall out of love with it because of the schedule that they have, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like if people want to do that and that is their calling, we need great personal trainers and strength coaches. So it just wasn't enough for me, and I was like, okay, well, what how can I make this harder? Like, let's challenge myself. What can I do that's gonna make me feel fulfilled by helping others? But also, I'm constantly learning new things every day. I get bored very easily, and I always love to be challenged. So if there's something that I can't figure out, like I'm going to use all my resources in order to make sure that I understand it. So originally I was pre-PA, shadowed that a little bit, but because I love building those connections and like meeting new people, I wanted more of that patient to provider interaction. And so that's what led me into nursing and nurse practitioning. So eventually, my long-term goal is to become a CRNA, which is a registered nurse anesthetist. And that would be like 3 years of a doctorate program. But we got to start small. We got to start small first. And then in terms of what was your other question? The first one?
So the first one was just like, how did you determine? So most people would say like, okay, I want to be a nurse.
Mhm.
Awesome. And they would go for that. Or like, I want to start my own business. Cool. Maybe we'll like kind of dabble in that a little bit. But it seems like you've been very intentional about like setting up these multiple lanes and understanding the balance and fusion of how to make them integrate within the context of your life.
Mhm.
So how did you determine like what all those pieces were?
Honestly, I'm still learning. I think I want to do a lot of things. Like I look at life as, why have just one specialty when I can have three things that I love and I'm really like passionate about, and I can put a little piece of everything, but they all connect, right? So health, wellness, fitness. Well, I'm still getting that by educating patients within the medical field of being a nurse. Like, hey, your diet, like you have high cholesterol, you have hypertension. What can we do to fix that? What are you doing? Like, are you going on walks? Like, are you exercising? Things like that. So I'm still able to educate, but while also I love like the business, the thing. I've been doing this for 3 weeks, and it's something that I never thought that I would love, like end up liking, but I love it. And it's so cool to make other connections with other people in other specialties who are, experts in their niche, and really learning from them. So that's how I got into a little bit of that. And it's just like, when I have a lot of time on my hands, I have found that I'm not as productive versus, and maybe this is because like being a student athlete, you are so regimented, like with your schedule. I'm used to like going all the time. So when I have to slow down, which I know this is something everybody needs to work on, is just, taking that time for yourself. But when I find that I have blocks of things that I need to accomplish, I get way more done, and I feel like I'm able to make time for the things that are important to me. And yeah, right now, I guess my mindset is, how can I be authentically myself while still finding myself? A big thing that I had been struggling with in school was, I always identified as a student athlete or a student, right? And I'm sure a lot of the people that you're reaching out to like can feel the same way. Like, oh, I'm just a student. Like there's nothing about me that make more than that, right? Or you're a daughter, you're a friend, things like that. But take all of those titles away, and who are you left with for you? Like, who are you for you? And that has been like at the forefront of my mind recently. I've been thinking about that a lot, and I want to know. I have ideas of who I am, but I want to get to that point where I know that I am this ABCD, and I can confidently portray that as authentically as I can, to others, so that they also can understand. It's like, you are more than just a student athlete. You are more than just an entrepreneur or a student or a daughter or a friend, like things like that. So there's just like a deeper drive to my wanting to be, in terms of like who I am and like what I want for myself.
Man, so that gave me goosebumps when you were talking about like take away the titles, strip away the identities that you've placed on yourself, and then like what are you left with? I think that is such a key concept for figuring out like what I'm kind of probing a little bit on, which is like, how did you identify like what chips you wanted to put in what lanes? Because I mean, especially based on how much opportunity is presented with us based on like the area we grew up in and based on
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of different factors, it can be information overload to a certain extent where it's like you can go a lot of different directions. And so it does come down to, okay, strip away the fact that, you were an athlete in high school, strip away the fact that you were someone's little or older sibling, strip away these things. Like what pulls you in, what intrigues you, what sparks that fire inside of you. And I really don't believe that like you can just like do something once and be head over heels like fully passionate about it. But I
Mm-hmm.
think there is that like there's that interest, there's that intrigue, there's that curiosity, and there are certain things that have a much more intense version of those feelings, and that's where you should really start to like, okay, narrow your focus onto those specific things. But no, I think that's so good. And the other thing I think was awesome that you said was being authentically yourself while finding yourself. Like that's where I just felt goosebumps because that's so true. And I think there are so many people that think about it as like it's a destination. Like you can only be authentically you once you've gone through the process and found you. The problem is we're like snakes. We're constantly shedding old layers. We're constantly moving forward into new versions of who we are and different versions of who we are.
Yeah.
And you can be the most authentic version of you right now while still continuing to peel back what I call like shadow selves, or like those toxic traits that you haven't yet identified. But as you continue through the process of self-development and just life in general, as long as you're paying attention, you'll notice those tendencies as life progresses and life challenges you in different fun new ways. So I really love the way that you articulated that. The last thing
Thank
I want to
you.
go back to, because I think this is really important, and we were talking about this before we hopped on. Not only were we both student athletes in high school, you in college as well, but we were both in an environment where it was both academically very competitive, but athletically very, very competitive at the school that we were at. And I really do believe that if you were playing at a high level, so like a varsity level in any sport at that school, it gave you such a ridiculous competitive edge over people in business and just in life, because you really do have that ambition and drive just almost like in your bones at that point.
Grit.
Yes, you are competing against other people, but really you're competing against yourself more than anything else.
Yeah, no, I 1010% agree. Like, I can't describe it, but it was always like, I played club as well for field hockey and things like that. And a lot of it, I want to say, not everyone, but you have those people who are like, no, it's really hard. Like, you're going into your senior year, you're not going to get recruited, blah, blah, blah. And I like that just like flipped the switch. I'm like, bet, watch me. I will do it. And it's just something that, like, when you find that spark inside you, which everybody does have, like there's that one little like tiny flame that whether it's a circumstance or an individual or whatever it may be, who sets it on fire in you, you like nothing will stop you. And that is something that I have learned to use to my advantage. And especially like, then it's almost like you get into this, if you do one thing, and like all these other people were like, I'm not gonna do it. And then you do it. And you not only did you just do it for yourself, because it's really important, like don't do it for the other people, do it for yourself, prove it to yourself. But once you get there, you're like, all right, so what's next? Like, what can I do next? Let's just see. And then you find the next thing. And it's just like those building blocks where then like it also builds your self-confidence, your knowledge of like what you're doing. Your mind is like opening to other opportunities or other perspectives. That I think is just really important, keeping an open mind to everything and realizing, this is going to sound super cheesy, but like progress is not linear, right? Success is not linear. It's going to be ups and downs and everything else. But if you're able to take a step back and take it for what it is, and just be like, okay, I have this obstacle, whatever it may be, I'm going to accomplish it or move around it by doing this. Okay, you've checked that off, you've got it. All right, so how can I like do the next one? Okay, you've got it. And that's something that even if you weren't in athletics, this could go for anything else, even in high school. Like work ethic speaks volumes within today's society for sure. And it's not even about like what or who and even if you don't know anyone to like get you that connection, it's just like the fact that people notice and they see that you're working, and it inspires them. Like it does, it makes little ripple effects which then like lead into other open doors that you never thought were possible.
There's a lot to unpack there. That was good. All right, so the first thing that I want to dive into, and I think this is really important, I call it what you were talking about. Like there are going to be people, the bigger the dreams you have, the more people are going to come to you and say like, you're out of your mind. There's no chance that's going to happen. I think the reason it's so important to like internalize that and use that as like an inner drive is because that's essentially, at least the way I see it, that's one of my inner voices attempting to come out and tell me that I can't do it. So I don't worry
Mm-hmm.
as much about them. Like if I accomplish it, I'm not going to go back and rub it in their face. But at the same point, like as soon as someone brings that up to me, I think like, okay, yeah, logically speaking, there is a possibility that I won't get this done. However, they don't know me like I know me. They don't know
Right.
how much work I'm willing to put in. They don't know how much I'm willing to sacrifice. And so I think that's where you need to internalize that drive, is not like maliciously so that you can like go back and just be like, oh yeah, F you, like I got it done. What do you got? Like, no, it's being able to prove it to yourself that so that you can build up that mental callousing, so that every time someone comes up to you and says like, okay, you're crazy, now you have this track record of all these other people who have lined up to criticize you, and you've just knocking them down one by one and proving them wrong. And so I
Yeah.
really do believe that that is a big part of progress, and a big part of like chasing your dreams is, I think the people who really let that stuff get to them are the people who fall victim to those messages. And the people who, as soon as someone says like, oh, you're out of your mind, you're never going to do that, they start to doubt themselves, and they start to think like, oh crap, maybe they know something I don't know, maybe I can't do it. And they let that get internalized. So that's one thing that I saw in a recent post of yours, is you said basically it was referring to, I believe, your business. And you were talking about, if you want to be a part of my team, one of the non-negotiables is no doubt. Like you need to leave like no self-doubt on the table and just be relentless in your pursuit. Talk about that mindset. Like why is it so important for you to not only have that yourself, but to surround yourself with a team of people like that?
So I I feel like I agree. So that when I posted that, I feel like it was a very like, I want you to leave the doubt that you have in yourself in like, I don't know if I can do this. Okay. So just take the first step and take the leap. Join me. Okay. I'll give you a little back of the business. So like you get 30 days to decide if this is something that you want to do, right? And within that 30 days, you can either you get the bundle of the product, and then you can return everything and be like, done, I don't want it, I don't like this, it's too much, I don't want to do it. You still get to keep the discount, whatever it is. But or if you leave that in that mind and just have an open mind to allow yourself to step out of that comfort zone and try something new, right? It's going to feel uncomfortable. The biggest growth that you will ever experience is by being uncomfortable. Like you can't, if you stay within your box, which I'm sure you know, you're never going to reach like new aspects of yourself that you never even knew that you had. And that is something like I still deal with doubt. Like self-doubt is definitely an everyday thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm posting so much on Instagram after not doing it ever. Like maybe a couple posts here and there during the month, but now it's like an everyday thing. And that I was like, well, what are people going to think? Like, am I going to be annoying? And are people going to unfollow me or like not want to be like my friend because they think that I'm just like pushing the business? But I'm not pushing the business to have you buy product. Like I am, but the bigger goal is providing a service. I have a solution to a problem that maybe some people have, whether that be they're looking to step into a new role, they want to make some extra income, I find a part of themselves that maybe they never knew existed. And I have this solution, and that's more of like, this is an opportunity, right? So even though I deal with self-doubt all the time, you have to like look at the bigger picture and see it for what it is, which is an opportunity of only gain, right? If you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. Like if you find that this is something that it's just not working out, at least you can turn around to yourself and say, I tried it. Like props to me, pat on the back. I did something that I never thought I would be able to do. And even though it didn't work out, I'm still proud of myself for doing it and taking that chance on me, on myself, you know?
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. So okay, so there's a couple big things in there too. I think one reason that people get so nervous about like, if especially with social media, so we'll take it in that context, right? Like if I really start promoting my business, if I really start posting these certain things, are people going to judge me? Are people going to unfollow me? The scariest part is, yes, there are going to be people who judge you. There are going to be people who unfollow you. So what? Like If those people unfollow you, awesome. That just means they're not meant to be a part of the journey that you're taking on. If there are people who criticize you, great. That means they just have a different perspective. If everyone thought the same way, talked the same way, and did the same things, life would be pretty boring on earth. So thank goodness we disagree on a couple things. So it's like just putting it into perspective and understanding, like, I guess buying into the process fully, what you're talking about, like understanding there are sacrifices, there are risks, there are things that you're going to have to just blindingly face head on. And it's the people who are willing to stare at those things and win the staring contest that are really going to do great things.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about, because you dove into, I'm trying to think of the words you used. I'm not going to do it. We'll paraphrase. So
Okay.
you talked about like almost getting creative in, like, you knew you wanted to be with health and wellness, but you didn't want to do it in kind of like the, I guess, more or less like stereotypical way that people get into health and wellness. There's a concept that I use called creatively disciplined. So the way that I think about it is, there are people who believe that, yes, you need to be disciplined in order to do the things you need to do to set up the lifestyle you want, right?
Right.
The problem with that is people just take that at face value and they don't even attempt to do it in a way that's fun and enjoyable for them. And so with that, I should be wearing, I have a creatively disciplined shirt. It's been a great opportunity. But so the reason that I set this up is because I truly believe, whether it's your career, whether it's your health, whether it's your finances, whether it's your relationships, every single part of your life, you should be creating a Venn diagram. So for those of you who don't remember, a Venn diagram is the two intersecting circles. So on one side, it's creativity. On the other side, it's discipline. So you write down all the things you want to do, all the things you're like, you love doing, that you just feel good about, and then all the things that you have to do: nutrition, fitness, sleep and recovery, relationships, finances. And you find the integration between those two things. So it's like, okay, great. I love these foods, and these are the ones that are healthy for me. I love doing these things to stay active. These are the ones that'll hit my goals of disciplinary action. Boom. And so I love the fact that you're a great example of the creatively disciplined mindset, where you're saying, like, okay, with this business, I wanted to run a business, but I knew that I had to do it in a way that it aligned with certain values, aligned with certain character traits that you have. Okay, awesome. You integrated it. You found a company that works great for you and a partnership that works great for you. Same thing with your career path that you're taking as well. You knew you wanted to do health and fitness, or health and wellness. You wanted to do it in a way that matched this different criteria than most people going into the industry. And so that's something I really want people to take away as well from your example is, you don't have to do it in the way that's already been done. You just need to figure out what you want, figure out what you need based on the lifestyle you desire, and find the fusion between the two.
Yeah, no, that is an excellent way to put it. And I think too, it's going to change, right? So like the things that you view as like creative and like what things that you need to do in order to get that, like they're always going to change. So being dynamic in the way that you set yourself up for the success, whatever that looks like for you, is also really important as well. Because, you know, you get your, like, you're going to have the pressure of being like, well, no, that's not the way that it's done. But if it's a better way and it works phenomenally for you, well, why wouldn't you do it? You know what I mean? So yeah, no, I really liked that. I'm gonna need one of those t-shirts.
All right, I'll hook you up for sure. So because you are, obviously you're in a business where you are looking to build a team, right? What is the dialogue between you and someone who, because honestly, the ideal person listening to this would be someone who, like, in the back of their head, they're thinking like, oh, I do have big dreams. Oh, I do want to be really ambitious, but whatever they have to say.
Yeah, it's the
What's
but.
the, yeah, what's the dialogue? Because I'll go through mine after, but what's your dialogue with people who they'll say like, oh, I have a big dream. Oh yeah, this does excite me, but I'm too crunched on time. But
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be good at it. Like, what's that conversation like?
So I'm really happy that you brought this up because we're going to be raw and authentic, right? So I started this business, right? I started posting about Monet. That is the name of the business, independent partnership. And it is a multi-level networking system, right? So those systems have a really bad rep because you have individuals who are doing it wrong. And there is a lot of opportunity for success and growth if you do it correctly. But the problem is, and like you said, people start it, they're like really, really excited. They go in like guns blazing, and then like they want instant results, right? And then they're like, it's not working. So then they tank, right? They go into the valley of despair and they're just like, this is not working. This is a pyramid scheme. This is not going to get me anywhere, like a waste of time, waste of money, whatever it is. But it's those individuals who can see past that valley of despair, right? And they're going through it and they're going through it. And then one day it's going to click. Like over time, it's going to click and you're going to be right back up here. And so a lot of the struggles that I have faced is I will reach out to people that I know, some people that I maybe haven't talked to in a while, but I remember their personality. I remember their work ethic. And I want people to join me who are as passionate about wanting something more for themselves like me. It's not even about like, I want you to love the products. I want you to love like Monet as well. But it's more so as like, you want that for yourself so much more that you are willing to put in like the grit and the mindset and the grind to get it. And I'm going to be right there with you doing it. So a lot of the girls and individuals that I have reached out to are like, no, like, I just don't have the time. Okay. I am a full-time grad student. Okay. I'm also starting a part-time job at Pro Healthcare as a CNA, working third shift. I am now running this business. You have time that you prioritize. I also see my family. Like family is so important to me. Like I make sure that every one of my friends and family knows that I'm there for them and that I love them and like the quality time is spent. But I also know how to get my shit done. So it's like things like that. I just don't think that I would be the right fit. Okay. Have you ever tried it? Why don't you try it? And then I'll talk about like how you have 30 days to decide. Commit to it for a hard 30 days. See if like, I will help you. We have resources, a part of this like business. There are things that I can, we can work together to coordinate. Like I would be your mentor and like we would do this together. So you're never alone. And then the other thing is like, well, I just don't have the money, because you do have to purchase in order to make money, you have to invest in yourself. They want you. And that's another thing like people don't understand is like, well, if they want me to sell their products, why wouldn't they just give it to me for free? Because that doesn't pay the bills. You know what I mean? Like they want you to buy the products so that you can use them and love them as much, because they know that you're going to love them. And if you don't, that's why the 30-day money back guarantee is there. But if you don't have that money to invest in yourself, to then what could lead to a 6-figure business for yourself. And I'm not saying like everybody's results are different. It is about how much time and effort you put into your own business. However, you could make the money back within that 30 days, or even make the money back and make a profit from it. And if you decide then like, I still don't want to do it, which is fine. But like, then you would be like, what did you lose? Nothing. So those are the things that I've been like struggling to like convince people with. And I think that's just something that will take time, and the more that I put it out there and educate how great of an opportunity it can be, people, I think will start, I'll have more of like a positive reaction to that versus oh no, like I know what this is, no, like closing the door completely. It's like, have an open mind, understand what the service I'm providing for you and the opportunity that you could have for yourself to get the life that you've always wanted, or the financial freedom. Like, I can do this anywhere from my phone. It's like whenever I want. You incorporate it into your life. It doesn't take over who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So yeah, you and I have very similar mentalities when it comes to the time aspect. So for me, and I've run through these numbers so many times, I'm like the week calculator at this point with time management. So if I if someone comes in, let's say to the gym, or someone applies online to work with me privately, they'll usually they'll go through the application process. They'll be so excited, they'll want to get going, and then I'll kind of lay out exactly what it looks like to them. And again, there's typically, anyone who's in business knows this. Anyone who is a customer, I'm guaranteeing you've probably whipped out one of these two things 95% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the time, you don't have the money. And honestly, like, this is not a sales tactic. This is just life. All right. So again, working in the health and fitness space, obviously I'm biased, but I feel like everyone can agree health and fitness is fairly important to your well-being as a human. And there are people who come in and they do need my help. We do all the body scans, we run through all the assessments. It's very evident. Yes, they do need the service that we're providing. Okay, great. They say, oh, but I don't know if I have the time to commit to two 30-minute sessions a week. I'm like, all right, fair enough. If you really don't, awesome. But let's just run through this, right? 168 hours in a week. Perfect. And then we break down, okay, how much are you working? 40. Okay, so 128. Let's say you're sleeping 8 hours a night. Most people are not. So that's another 56 hours. Okay, great. And you just kind of dwindle it down. Most people are left with a good 25 hours per week. The reason that they don't realize that is they're spending about 2 to 3 hours a day on their phone. They're spending about 2 hours a day on their TV,
Netflix, doing
on
something.
YouTube. And so it all accumulates, but to them, that's their like wind down time. And so I start to let them know, like, okay, but if you were to commit to even an hour a week, we're taking 1/20th of that time. We're taking 5% of your free time and investing it into something that'll give you the lifestyle that you want, and the body that you want, and the energy that you want. Awesome. Okay. But I just don't know if I have the money. Okay, fair enough. Like, if you really don't, awesome. But again, let's actually dive into it and see if it's an excuse or it's valid. So then we go through, okay, like, and there are a lot of people who won't even open up about this, but I go through, okay, let's say, like, very conservatively, you're making like $2,500 a month. I don't know, something like that for full-time people. Great. Let's say your rent is 800. Cool. Groceries are this much. Cool. You go out this much, and you kind of dwindle it down. It's like, okay, great. You have $200 a week left over that you're not using on anything, including going out once a week, including,
Right.
buying yourself a new t-shirt or something like that. A new best self t-shirt, maybe.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe.
and so just kind of breaking it down. And so again, I'm like, okay, so you have this extra $200. You're not investing it. You're not, putting it towards something else. Why not take it out of your Starbucks fund and put it into your Making Myself Healthy fund? And so I think a big part of it is really, and again, we usually hit one point during my podcast where we kind of like call people out a little bit. This is definitely that point where it's like, if you are that person who's consistently saying, I don't have time, or consistently saying, I don't have money, one of two things is true. One, you're making an excuse and you're just not manning or womaning up and taking action. The second thing is you really don't have the time or money, and you need to go through your finances and your schedule and identify where you're wasting time and money. Because that was something, the reason I can talk about this, because I did both of those to the most extreme that you can do them. I wasted 23 and a half hours a day for like a year, and I pissed away all of my money every day for multiple years. And it was only when you, again, shine that spotlight on it and get very intentional that you understand like where your investment should be and what you should put your time and money towards. And so again, I really think that's a key component that people need to hear if they're at the point where they want to make these changes, they want to do these things, but they catch themselves saying, I don't have the time or don't have the money, do an audit. Make sure that you're actually speaking the truth, and then start to figure it out.
Yeah. And I think another thing that it comes down to is just accountability to yourself, to your family, to your, like, if you do all of those things, right? Great. Now what? Next month happens. 2 weeks go by. You find yourself working in those bad habits again. And no, cut the shit, hold yourself accountable. Like, sorry, but the reason why a lot of people are going through the same cycles is because they can't get in the mental state of like, I can't break this bad habit. No, you can. By holding yourself accountable, you can. Rewarding yourself with being like, I just went 2 whole weeks without going to Starbucks. That is probably over $100 because that is like $5 a drink. Like, reward yourself, and it's like, now you have this extra $100 that you didn't spend on coffees or whatever it may be. What do you, when all your bills are paid for, when all the other boxes are checked, are you investing it in yourself, or are you wasting it? Are you taking the opportunity and holding yourself accountable and being like, okay, 5 years down the line, where do I see myself? What do I see my life like? What do I see, if this is for like financials, where do I see my bank account? Am I living paycheck to paycheck? Am I just scraping by? Or do I have the extra money? So where now, as I've invested in myself, but now I can invest even more, and I can build, and I can start building an empire or a business, whatever that is for you, by holding yourself accountable every single day. And that's just like across the board with nutrition, fitness, school, time management, your family. A big thing that like my parents taught me growing up is like, your word is all you've got. So make sure when you say you're going to do something, you do it. And if you don't, or you can't, own up to it.
Yeah.
I'll always own up to my mistakes. When I make mistakes, I'm like, so sorry. Like, that was my bad. But like, acknowledging it. And even if you can't acknowledge it yourself, if somebody comes to you and is like, hey, you said you would do XYZ and you didn't do it, then at least you can take it in and be like, all right, now I've made this conscious effort that I need to change, and I need to adapt and do so moving forward, so that you don't make that same mistake again.
Yeah. So you and I think very similarly on this. And at first, I was going to add what you ended up throwing in there, which is like, I am very big on like, if you say you're going to do something, you do it. And I used to think that, and I used to criticize myself and other people anytime they didn't hold that up. But at the end of the day, like even last week, I made a mistake in my schedule. I put something on like the wrong day when I was talking with someone, and I completely just missed a meeting.
Yeah.
Again, like stuff's going to happen, but you have to own up to it. Like, and I straight up said, I'm like, hey, maybe they'll even be listening to this. I don't know. And I said, I'm like, hey, that's completely my bad. I had this scheduled for the wrong day. I didn't say like, oh, sorry, my car broke down on the side of the road, or like, oh, sorry, someone else held me up. It's like, no, I screwed up. I put it on the wrong day. I clicked the wrong button. I did the wrong thing. Like, it's on me. And it's the same thing with, and that's a very minor thing, but it's because, again, I've put a lot of time and effort into like the other areas of my life. Like for race season, I very rarely drink. So like for me, I've gotten to this point where like, if I say I'm not going to drink, I don't drink. If I say I'm not going to eat junk food, I don't eat junk food. If I say I'm going to lift weights 6 days this week, I'm going to lift weights 6 days this week. Cause those things, like I've built that mental muscle to where like, it's like breathing. Like I don't even think about it. But then there are other like kind of smaller tasks and habits where like whether it's newer, like as business is growing, my schedule is getting a lot crazier. And so there are going to be little slip ups here and there when that happens. And when it does, people will much more appreciate the fact that you own up to it than you throwing an excuse out there.
Right.
Yeah. So, and Yeah. So you and I think very similarly on that. And I think at the end of the day too, like, and I've said this before on here when we get kind of into it like this, but if you feel offended by something we're saying, you should probably pay closer attention than anyone else. And and I truly believe that anything in life, like and again, we're going to just kind of continue on the aggressive path, I guess. Why not? Like, if someone calls you fat and you take offense to it, again, maybe you do need to lose some weight. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying that as a health and fitness coach, as a health and fitness expert, like, and it's the same thing. Like if someone calls you stupid and you take offense to it, maybe you should read a couple books. Like, and that again, it's not saying like buy into the negative self-talk. It's saying you obviously have some internal truths around those things. And there are really two ways to negate the self-talk. One, practice positive self-talk, but two, take action on making a difference in those things. So like one thing that you were talking about is picture yourself 5 years from now. Honestly, I always do that in two ways. So the first way is if I keep doing exactly what I'm doing right now, what will my life look like in 5 years? And then ideally, what do I want my life to look like in 5 years? And you contrast those two versions of future reality and figure out, okay, like what do I need to do to close that gap and to shift it from like current 5 years to like optimized 5 years? So I
Right.
really like your mindset on that.
Thanks. And one thing that I did want to add when you were like, so if somebody does come to you, and I think that there's a very distinct difference between stupidity and ignorance, right? So, especially in today's day and time, honestly, the amount of resources that you have to educate yourself, right, can eliminate that ignorance. So when people say like, oh, you're just like stupid, like stupid comments, like things like that, okay, whatever, like brush it off. But if somebody's coming to you and saying you are ignorant, you have no, go and educate yourself, like that is call to action. That is, you need to go, you need to find the resources to educate yourself, because not only then like are you bettering yourself, but those around you, and like just common courtesy of like interacting with others, right? Nobody wants to be around somebody who's so ignorant that they don't understand like social cues, or like there's, if you're like offending people, like that's like a really like big thing right now, is people are just speaking like, great, speak your mind, but do it so respectfully where like we can all have our own opinions and we can all have our own stance, but you owe it to yourself to keep an open mind and hear other people's perspectives. Now, whether you agree with them or not that is on you. And you don't even have to say, yeah, I agree with you. But like taking the time to understand different perspectives and allowing yourself to be educated, that at the end of the day, hey, I hear you. I don't agree with you. Thank you for sharing with me, because you have opened my mind to ABC that I didn't think of before, but my stance still remains the same. Or maybe you don't even have to say that, but that's just something that I feel like a lot of people confuse, especially with like, that whole like stupidity and things like that. Like you said, turn around, look in the mirror, and there's probably something that you can do for yourself to better the situation that you've been put in.
Yeah. One, I think too, the best way. So again, hopefully you're not surrounding yourself with people who are calling you fat and stupid. Like we'll just
Right.
baseline that. But I think there's a couple things to break down with that. The first one is like, who's saying it? Is it some like Instagram troll who's just saying it to piss you off? Like if that's the case, then just kind of brush it off. Like obviously they don't know you. They don't understand like your life or where you're at. But if it's coming from someone like in your kind of inner circle, I guess, like take it from like the validity of the source. So like
Right.
if I have a friend who again is living paycheck to paycheck and he says I just did something stupid with my money, maybe I'm not going to take that into as much of account as like if a friend of mine who's like crushing it with his 6-figure business tells me I made a stupid decision with my money. So that's the first thing.
Well, that's the other, sorry to interrupt.
Go for it.
Never take advice from someone who's not living the life that you want. Do not do it. If somebody's coming to you and they are not living the life that you want to live, or they are not doing the things that you want to do, your advice, I'm sorry, and this is probably going to offend somebody, and I've learned this so fast within 3 weeks, your advice is irrelevant. I'm sorry. It's just, I don't want it. I didn't ask for your advice and I don't care to hear it because that's not the direction I'm going. That doesn't mean that we can't still be friends. That doesn't mean that I won't still hang out with you. But I don't want your advice because you're not going to get me to where I'm trying to go. And that is something like, if anybody is listening to this, and that is like the biggest thing, that is the one piece of advice that I would put at the forefront of your mind when people are coming to you and criticizing you and doing whatever, like, look at who it is. Listen to the feedback. So if it is that, like you said, Trevor, like the individual, like it's a friend, family member, whoever it is, who's coming to you as a place of like genuine, like, hey, I think XYZ. But if it's a rando or some other person who's like pooping on your parade, you just be like, no. I don't care to listen to you because you're not adding value to my life. You're trying to prevent me to where I want to go.
Yeah. The hardest situation, in my opinion, is when it is a close friend or family member and they're someone you wouldn't want to live like, trying to give you advice. Because then you have to have the very uncomfortable conversation. And maybe you don't. Maybe you like can brush it off. But oftentimes if it's someone in that close of a circle or like that close of a relationship, if they don't see the change or they see you repeating that action, they're going to get more aggressive with their advice and like their input. And eventually it leads to a conversation where you have to say like, hey, I love you. I care about you. I do not need advice from you in that area of life. Like my version of what I want in that area is different than like what your version is. And so like I need to talk to other people about that who are more aligned with me in that area. And I do think there's a way to say it and verbalize it in a way that's friendly and like it'll diffuse the tension, but it's very easy to trigger someone if you're basically going up to them and saying like, your advice is invalid. Like, I am not going to take your word for it. I do not want to become what you've become. And so and I think you said it very well too. Like, you need to be very cognizant of the words you're using. And again, I've slipped up on my verbiage so many times. Like, if you go back to the podcast, I'm sure I've offended many people many times, saying many different things. But like, just continuing to practice that. And it's a practice. You're never going to be perfect with it. But there's a book called The 4 Agreements. And the very first one is be impeccable with your word. And that is something that is so powerful because you're not just projecting what you want to say. You have to do it in a way that the person you're projecting it at understands what you're trying to say. And that's a whole new ball game because I have different verbiage than you. You have different verbiage than the people next door. Like, everyone talks and listens in a different way. And it really is an art to understand like how to effectively connect with different people.
Yeah. Another great book, if people are interested, is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yeah, there you go. that is the book that helped me really take it from like being a teammate, not just like a good teammate, but to being a captain and like running a team and understanding that the way that I respond is not the same for the next person or the next person. And maybe I could, like, there were girls on my team that I knew I could push. And then there were also girls on my team where that I knew I have to approach them very differently. I have to come from a place of like extra TLC and let them know that they are valid, that they're being heard, but also give them a little bit of tough love, because once you build that connection, you're able to, they see you as like, she genuinely cares for me, and now she's just helping me, versus she's coming at me, she's ridiculing me, she's criticizing, I can't do anything right, blah, blah, blah. And then it's a ripple effect all the way down. And that's just like for anyone, if you're in business, I'm sure with your clients, like there are some clients that you can really push and like, hell yeah, let's do it. But then there's also some clients that just need that extra comfort from you in order to see their optimal performance and have them want to work, like not for you, but with you. Like they want, like you inspire them.
No, that's a big reason why I really started getting into a lot of these communication books, was for like work and career. And it absolutely blew my mind how effective it was in my life. Like I was having a conversation, this was a few months ago at this point, but with someone who I've known for years, and we were talking, and they just dead stopped in the middle of our conversation. We were looking at me, they're like, you really turned into a completely different person. They're like, the way you talk, your eye contact, your body language. And they were like, you just are genuinely like a different human being. Now, granted, I wasn't exactly the most positive speaking, like inspirational human being a few years
Right.
back, but if people want to hear more about that, it's in other episodes. But it really, it changes who you are, because you speak different, you sit with different posture, you carry different energy, because you understand how crucial it is to do those things. And if anyone takes anything away from this, I would say it's kind of two parts. One, when you're taking advice, and books are a big part of this, like take advice from people who have the experience. That's not just talking to people, that is reading books. That's why books are so beneficial, and why so many CEOs and leaders read like 30 to 100 books a year, is because they're getting the expertise from all these different authors. So understand like how to take advice, and how to decipher who to take advice from, and then just go for it. Like be relentless, take that
Yeah.
action, and do what you need to do to set yourself up. Like we were talking about, when you're coaching other people, you need to know who to push, who to give TLC to. You need to know that about yourself too. Like I'd say 80% of the time, I'm someone who is very like positive mindset. Like I'm like, oh, inspirational. Like I'm playing the Rocky theme song in my own head. Like, you got this, you go. And then there is kind of that like dark side, where I do leverage, like, remember when that person told you you couldn't do this? Remember when that person told you you weren't good enough? Remember? And I really just kick my own ass, basically, because
Yeah.
it helps me. I wouldn't do it if it wasn't beneficial. And so it's really understanding like where you most effectively draw your energy from, and how you can best push yourself, because you're the coach and the athlete in your own head.
Yeah. 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 I agree. 1000%. That was really well said.
Well, thank you. So we'll wrap it up. Obviously, we've been talking for a decent amount of time. That went really fast for me.
Yeah, it
But
was.
before I ask the final question, where can people connect with you? Because there are going to be a lot of people, whether it's student athletes, whether it's people scared to get started, whether it's people looking to start their own business. Like,
Yeah.
where can people connect with you? Where can they follow you? Let people know.
Definitely. So you can find me via Facebook. My name's Samantha Glapinski, Glapinski. And you can find me on Instagram as well. So again, that's just my full name. And I definitely, like, if you post something about this, Trevor, I will put it on my story. So and I'll tag you in it. So we definitely it'll probably be on both of our platforms. So if you want to reach out, and it's not even, if you just want to talk and just hear it from me, like from my side, like not even about the business, just like more mentality, like sides of things, like I would be happy to talk to anyone. Like I would be happy to jump on a phone call, and because that's what we're here for, right? We got to build each other up. We got to build this community, and we have to like there's not a lot of people. It can feel really alone. You can feel really alone in doing this, and you're not. I promise, you're not. So yeah, those are the places that you can find me. And I was really, this was fun. I liked this.
I'm glad. Yeah, me too. This was, again, there were multiple times throughout this conversation, and anyone listening, I hope you felt like this too, but I really did. Like, I wasn't just making that up. I got goosebumps on a few things we were talking about because it hits home. Like, some of this
Yeah.
stuff, it really is. It's stuff that once you've been doing this long enough, it's just second nature, but it's so important. And when you're not doing it, it takes moving mountains sometimes to be able to get to the point where it feels like this. And so, like, anyone who was listening, and like we were kind of drilling people about, like, if you're not optimizing your time, if you're not doing this, like, at the end of the day, like, all we're here to talk about is the pursuit, is
Mm-hmm.
every day waking up and making it your number one intention to go to bed at night a better version of yourself than you woke up that morning. And that's what Sam's talking about. That's what, like, I talk about this with everyone all day, every day. Like, that's what best self is about, is forming, like, I'm starting to call it like the best self squad, like the group of
Yeah.
people who, like, no matter what you're going through, no matter what point of life you're in, like, if you see this symbol, like, on someone's shirt, on someone's backpack, on someone's phone, like, if someone's talking about self-development, like, you can kind of let your walls down and have this type of conversation. So I'm very grateful that you did that. But before I get into wrapping everything up, I have one more question. I
Okay.
love this. I ask everyone this question. So
Okay.
for you right now, what is the next step in you becoming your best self?
Ooh. Mm. Like in terms of it, like overall everything.
Anything and everything, however you interpret that.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, this combo really, like, I have a lot of studying to do the rest of today, so it really sparked me up to go and do that. But no, I think the thing that I can work on moving forward to being my best self is, like I said, staying true to myself, focusing on what it is that I really want. And even if I don't know, little things that I'm doing every day, I believe in myself that will lead me to figuring out what it is that I want for myself, for my future, and my why, right? So yeah, I mean, like, you kind of just, you get in this whole, like, well, I want this because I want this lifestyle, I want this because I want to be this person, this person, this person. But like, the why am I doing it is so that I have a 4-year-old sister, I have an 19-year-old sister. Like, setting the example and taking that risk, and not only proving it to myself, but being the example for them and showing, like, I jumped in, had no idea what I was getting into, but I made it work. And just because somebody tells you you can't, don't take it for that. Do it because you can, and do it because you believe in yourself, to push yourself out of your comfort zone in order to fully embrace what you want out of your life, right?
Heck
You
yeah.
only get one. So yeah, that's my closing statement.
I love it. It's a beautiful closing statement. Sam,
Thank you.
thank you so much for coming on here. Thank you for setting the example you do, saying the words that you say, inspiring the people that you inspire. I am in a very similar boat where you talk about, like, it's not just for you, it's for the people around you, it's for your family, it's for your community. And honestly, like, you're going to hit a point where eventually you're thinking, like, this is for the world. And that that truly is, again, best self is not about me. Yes, I started the company, cool, whatever. Like, it's anyone else could have thought of this. I just want to make sure that I'm part of a community that is with people like you, like everyone who's listening, where we're actively pursuing that self growth and we're really trying to become the best possible version of ourselves that we can be. And so, like, that is what drives me. And it sounds like we have a very similar, like, it's not really selfishly, yes, part of it is about me, but like it's so much bigger than that. And
Right.
so I'm so grateful that we had the time to sit down. You will be seeing a creatively disciplined shirt on your doorstep at some point in the next few weeks.
Woo!
But yeah, seriously, thank you for coming on here. I respect like way more than just your content. Like your content has been amazing and it's really inspiring, but giving you the chance to elaborate and dive into it, like you really have a good mindset around a lot of this stuff. And I'm really happy that people got to tune in and just hear what you have to say.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I was a little nervous, but I'm really happy and I would love to do this again. This was so much fun.
Absolutely. We'll tee up round two sometime soon. But
Yes.
for everyone listening, again, I gotta say it because this is something like if you couldn't tell by now, we are both super passionate about this. Every person I have on here is super passionate about this. If you have comments about anything we said, questions, comments, concerns, that is why there's a comments section. Most importantly are the following. Subscribe because we'll have a lot more people like Sam with different perspectives and different backgrounds who will really be able to give you insights. Make sure that you're sharing this with people because I don't know a single human being on this planet who couldn't benefit from the talk we just had. And like, again, like, comment, share, like, do whatever you can. We're trying to make this, like I said, the best self squad. We're trying to build a movement. We're trying to build a military of self developers who come in with the mission of helping themselves and as many other people optimize themselves in their life. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I give you so much respect for taking the time out, for listening. Hopefully we had a few things that contribute to your growth and your development. But other than that, we will catch you next time.